How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder. To recap the series from over the weekend between the Yankees and the Cardinals, the Yankees sweeping the series, and they are now back to 10 games over 500. They gained a little bit of ground on the other teams ahead of them in the wild card and also in the divisional race as well. Although, as you've watched this show for the past month or so, well, more than a month, I've been saying the Yankees should focus on the wild card. Really, since before I went on vacation, that's when it kind of set in. I said, hey, Yankees got to focus on the wild card. But they are a half game back of the Mariners and the Red Sox. So that's huge. They got the Red Sox coming up this week, a 4-game set, which is one of the biggest series of the year. It's going to show us what the Yankees are made of because they've started to play better baseball. But you could also say, well, look at the teams that they went up against. The Twins, who they own, they did take 2 out of 3, and then they swept the Cardinals, which I didn't think it was going to be easy, and it really wasn't easy because all these games were close, and the Yankees' offense did come alive, which when you looked at the pitching matchups, the Yankees were favored in pretty much all of them, and, they had late runs in the later innings, particularly yesterday. They went into the 9th inning tied, and they put up a 4 spot to win that game. So it wasn't easy, but this was a good series win, a good sweep for the Yankees. And like I said, it gets them back to 10 games over 500. And they also distanced themselves from the Guardians a little bit. There's a little bit of a gap now where, a few days ago it was a half a game, but now it's 3.5 games. And the Rangers continue to scuffle. The Royals actually been playing better baseball, but they've been... they've fallen back now in the wild card race because of them losing and the Yankees winning. So it was a good weekend. And yesterday you saw every team that the Yankees needed to lose. And they won. And for a moment I didn't think they were going to win. They go up early, and then the Cardinals get back into the game. They end up pulling ahead with a home run later in the game to go up by a run. Yankees did tie the game. And then eventually they won the game. Like I said, they put up the 4 spot in the 9th inning. And then they're able to get it done. So, I didn't feel great about it because, a few days ago we saw the Yankees, the same opportunity with the final game against the Twins. Everybody lost, and then the Yankees lost. They couldn't take advantage of it, but they did indeed take advantage of it on Sunday, yesterday, the final game. But like I said, wasn't easy. The Yankees also did play some sloppy baseball. Some pass balls went behind Ben Rice. Also, Luke Weaver overthrew Paul Goldschmidt on a pickoff. Jazz Chisholm made a bad play in the field, trying to make a great play, made a diving play in the outfield and tried to throw it to first base on his knees, and went behind Goldschmidt, and that allowed the runner to go to second base. So there was still some sloppiness. Also, Dominguez, another bad play in left field, cannot start in the postseason. If the Yankees get there, he cannot be starting in the outfield for the postseason. Just can't. That allowed a runner to get to third base on a triple. It ended up being a triple. Can't have that happen in big games. So, and the Yankees are kind of, handcuffed right now because Aaron Judge is still not ready to play the field. So he's got a DH. And that also makes the lineup worse because now Stanton has to come off the bench. And we'll talk about Stanton in a little bit as well. But we go to Friday's game. Yankees got on the board early against Palante. They put up a 3 spot. You had Aaron Judge with an RBI double early on in the game, in the first inning. And then Jazz Chisholm ended up homering, a 2-run homer. So that made it 3-0. So a good start for the Yankees there. But then the Cardinals made things interesting later on in the game. They didn't score until the 6th inning. Actually, no, it was a ground out. My apologies. But the Aaron Judge ground out, and then Jazz hit the 2-run homer. But Judge did have a good series. He hit a home run in this series that barely went out, but that was his 39th of the season. So yeah, Jazz with the 2-run homer. Then the Yankees tacked on another run in the top of the 3rd inning. Jason Dominguez with the RBI single. And getting the ball on Friday was Luis Gil, and he did pitch into the 6th inning. Got himself into a little bit of trouble at times, but was able to get out of it. He had 2nd and 3rd with nobody out. I think that was I want to say it was the 5th inning, and he was able to get out of it. And walks were still kind of a problem. He 3 walks in the game, gave up 4 hits, did have 4 strikeouts, but did put together a good performance. You're seeing that he's starting to get himself back to the Luis Gil that we saw last year, which the Yankees are really going to need him down the stretch here. But yeah, and then the bullpen came in. Couple of runs surrendered by Doval. He has not been good since the Yankees traded for him. I know I saw on social media some Giant fans were saying good luck with him because he does throw wild and he does have very good stuff, but you could see he is wild. He does walk a lot of guys, gives up runs. But this is a guy the Yankees can work with because he does have the stuff. Maybe they could figure something out. But other than Bednar, the other two relievers that the Yankees traded for, again, one of them you sent down to the minor leagues in Jake Bird, and Doval has not been good. I think his ERA with the Yankees, since he's gotten there, right now it's at a 3.52 overall on the season, but in 8 games with the Yankees, he's pitching to an ERA over 6.3. He got a 6.43 ERA in 8 games with the Yankees, so that's not good. But the back end of the bullpen, you got your lockdown guys. Luke Weaver is back to being Luke Weaver, and Bednar has taken over as the closer. And he's been awesome since the Yankees have acquired him, other than the debut, which we've talked about. But someone that I actually was happy with their performance over the weekend that you wouldn't expect is Caballero. Caballero was on base. He was laying down bunts. He's stealing bases. He leads the league in stolen bases, and he shows you why. He's a pest. And in his post-game interview, he talked about how he doesn't want to be liked on the baseball field. We like that. And what's good about him also is, yes, he could play all over the place, but also one of the positions that he could play and give somebody a day off, and that's what you saw yesterday, is he could be the backup shortstop. And he started yesterday over Anthony Volpe. And that's something that the Yankees haven't had the ability really to do since Anthony Volpe has come up. They really don't have that backup shortstop. And that's why Volpe's playing every day. And you appreciate that Volpe's able to play every single day. And obviously he's young and, he's able to do that. He hasn't really gotten injured at all. But giving Volpe rest, I think, is important because you see when he does get rest, he's a different player. When he comes back, he needs a spell here and there, and then he goes on a hot streak. You like to see that. And, I think it's good here because you gave him the off day yesterday, and then today, as we're recording this, there's an off day. And then you pick up and you're back in Tampa at George M. Steinbrenner Field to take on the Rays for a couple games tomorrow. So Caballero had a very good series. Also, another guy that had a very good series is Ben Rice, and he put his stamp on Game 2. Game 1, it got dicey at times. Yankees were able to hold off the Cardinals and win. That game had, another blown lead written all over it when it came to this series, because we've seen the Yankees blow a ton of games. That one had the makeup for it, but it didn't happen. Like I said, the back end of the bullpen did its job. Yankees were able to pick up the win, and we did see Goldschmidt in this series. It was unknown whether or not he was going to be put on the IL. Then it seemed like it was likely that he was not going to be put on the IL, and we ended up seeing him in this series, and he had a very good game yesterday. He picked up, I believe, 3 hits. So, maybe Goldschmidt's starting to, come around again. And he's, you look at his overall body of work this year, hasn't had a bad year, 280, 10 homers, 41 RBIs, 763 OPS. Had a very good first couple months of the season, but he was very poor in July. But he's kind of picked it back up again. I think it was either June or July. But really this whole summer he has not been good. He hasn't been the hitting machine that he was in the beginning of the year. But maybe he's starting to pick it back up again. So, but the Yankees got the 4-3 win. Then we go to Saturday's game. Yankees win 12-8. High-scoring game. They got started off in a hurry. So this is where Judge had the RBI double to lead off the game. So Trent Grisham singled, Ben Rice walked, Judge doubled. That made it 1-0 Yankees. Then Dominguez singled. So Yankees were up 2-0 right away. Then Max Fried gives up a run in the bottom of the first inning, an RBI single to Ivan Herrera. And then he gives up 4 runs in the bottom of the second, including a 3-run homer. Once it got to 2-2, Giants are playing the Jets, and I have a video coming out on the Giants preseason game against the Jets. That'll be coming out at some point. So if it is up already as you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, it's probably already up. So make sure to check that out as well if you want to get my thoughts on that. But I turned the game off, and then I'm looking on Twitter, and then I see Max Fried gives up. I think Brian Hoke tweeted it that Max Fried gave up a home run to Mason Wynn, and that made it 5-2. And I'm sitting there going, "Yep, they're gonna lose this game now." They've been stressing me out. I can't do it. And it was the same thing with Friday night's game. I kept turning it off every time there was something bad that would go wrong for the Yankees. But then Judge hit a home run in the top of the third inning, his 39th of the season. That made it 5-3. And then Yankees got a couple of guys on base, and Ben Rice homered, a 3-run shot. With Caballero and Grisham on base, that made it 6-5. That was his 18th homer of the season. And then the Yankees didn't really look back. They had the lead for pretty much the rest of the game. Ben Rice doubled later in the game, and that scored 3 runs. A bases clearing double. That made it 9-5. And Max Fried kind of settled in, but then he gave up a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 6th inning. That was to Gorman, Nolan Gorman. That made it 9-7. Max Fried still got the win, all things considered. Gave up 7 runs, still got the win. Ryan McMahon ended up homering his first home run as a Yankee, his 17th homer on the season. That made it 10-7. Ben Rice again singled later in the game. That was his 7th RBI of the game. That scored Caballero. Jazz Chisholm hit a sac fly. This was all in the top of the 7th inning. And then the bottom of the 9th inning, they had to use... I was hoping Mark Leiter Jr. was going to finish off the game. He wasn't able to do that. Devin Williams pitched a clean inning, pitched a clean 6th. De Los Santos pitched 2 scoreless innings, a couple of strikeouts. Mark Leiter Jr. only pitched 2/3 of an inning. They had to put in Bednar to get the final out, which he did, because Mark Leiter Jr. just couldn't get out of the inning. And the Yankees got the win there. Sonny Gray, the Yankees went up against him, former Yankee, and he got his 6th loss on the year. That drops his record to 11-6. But Max Fried was not good. 5 innings, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, a couple of home runs. Max Fried has not been the same pitcher for quite some time. His ERA, really, I forget since when. I think it was really since the All-Star break, but even before that. I mean, it's like over 6. He has not been good. He has not been the same pitcher that he once was. I mean, at one point you were saying, hey, he's going to be up there for the AL Cy Young. That's not the case now. And listening to Michael Kay, he was talking about how the spin rate has dropped. And really, you look all over social media and all the Yankee fans talking about it. Just the velocity has dropped. You know, he's not throwing 97, 98, because he has the potential to do that at times if he needs to, go up a notch in certain spots where he needs that pitch to put hitters away. And we're just not seeing that right now out of him. And it's a problem. It's a problem because if the Yankees are going to turn this thing around and go on a deep run, he's going to have to be the Max Fried that we saw at the beginning of the season. Even if he does turn into the Max Fried from the beginning of the season, I still don't think that's going to be the case. But it would help. But if he's going to be like this, I mean, forget about the Yankees doing anything. They need him to be the ace again. And it's just not happening. And you could point to the blister that he was dealing with, and since really the blister, that's kind of when things went awry. But they keep saying that's not the issue. I think it has to be, some of it has to do with that, but I also think a lot of it has to do with fatigue. I think that's really it. It's a long season. And you are going to get tired. So they got to figure it out. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they skip a start. Something, I don't know. But they got to get Max Fried right. They have to. But hopefully, I mean, he's going to be getting older. Not going to get any younger. But that contract, I know this could be an overreaction. Probably not. But what would they give him? 8 years? That contract's going to age poorly. If he's going to pitch like this as he gets older, I don't know. I don't really want to put that out there, but that is something to think about because the Yankees had to give him the extra year so he would sign with them, essentially. And as these pitchers get older, some of them tail off, but maybe not. We'll see. But that's just something I think about. That's why it's. I hope Garrett Cole comes back healthy next year because they really miss him. But that was definitely something to take away from the series and say, hey, look, you got the win, but Max Fried still doesn't look right. But Ben Rice, 3 hits, 7 ribbies. He's found his way into the lineup basically every day now. Remember, we go back to when Stanton was coming back. What's going to happen with Ben Rice? How is he going to get those consistent at-bats? But, with Goldschmidt struggling the way he has, and really the way Austin Wells has played, Ben Rice has found himself in the lineup every single day. And when this lineup is at 100%, when Judge is finally back in the outfield and stands back to DH, Ben Rice is going to be the everyday catcher, and he should be. And I was saying he was doing a good job, and then he had a couple of pass balls get behind him in the first game, so I looked a little silly there. But he's been a hitting machine. Wells still is just not right. He has been very poor for the last couple of months. You got to keep one of your hottest hitters in there, and Ben Rice has found a way. I mean, your best lineup is when everything's right. Is Dominguez or not Dominguez? Sorry, Dominguez. Bellinger, Grisham, and Judge in the outfield. Then you have McMahon, Volpe, Jazz, Goldschmidt at first. Stan's DHing, Ben Rice behind the plate. That's your best lineup right there for the postseason. That's your lineup right there. And Grisham's leading off. So that's what they're going to have to do. But Ben Rice putting together a very good year. 239 batting average. You want to see the average a little bit higher. But look, the OPS is there. Over 800. 18 homers, 45 RBIs. And there was talk of maybe the Yankees potentially trade him at the trade deadline. Thankfully, they did not. And he's going to have a big role on this team next year because whether it's behind the plate or if it's at first base, because Goldschmidt's probably not coming back, he's going to have a role on this team for years to come. Big fan of Ben Rice. But the Yankees were able to get the win. 12-8, despite Max Fried not pitching well. And then you go to yesterday's game. Yankees put up a 3-spot in the top of the 4th inning. Will Warren was pitching, and he's been pitching very well. Didn't get through the 5th inning. Pitched 4 2/3, 6 hits. His defense didn't help him out. Like I said, Jazz made a bad play. You also had Bellinger misjudging a ball with 2 outs. That led to a 2-run double in the bottom of the 4th inning. But yeah, the Yankees, 3 runs in the top of the 4th inning. Dominguez singled to score a run. McMahon singled to score a run. And then Caballero scored. And like I said, he got the start yesterday. But yeah, the Cardinals got 2 in the bottom of the 4th inning. It was a 2-run double. Scored a couple, scoring Herrera and Walker. And that made it 3-2. And then they scored 1 in the 5th inning and then 1 in the 6th inning. Alec Burleson singled to score a run. And then you had Pozo homered, his 5th homer of the season. That was off of Doval. So that made it 4-3. Yankees tied it in the 7th inning on a Bellinger sac fly, and then they put up a 4-spot in the 9th inning. So they walked Stanton unintentionally, and then they just said, you know what, we're just going to intentionally walk Judge here. So that put that loaded the bases, and before that, Caballero reached on a throwing error, and he ended up going to second on that. So that's how you had the other runner on base. And then Bellinger, so it ended up being an error. Well, actually, no, it ended up being a fielder's choice. I thought it was going to be a hit. But that scored a couple of runs, and then Jazz grounded out. That scored a run, and then Goldschmidt hit a double down the right field line into the corner. That made it 8-4, and then the Yankees were able to get through it in the 9th inning. That was, I think that was, right? Yeah, Weaver finished the job in inning 2/3. So Devin Williams pitched in the 5th inning. He pitched just to get the final out of the 5th inning. He did walk a batter, but he did strike out the next one. I think he struck out Jordan Walker. And yeah, Doval came in, pitched an inning and a third, gave up a run, the Bozo homer. Tim Hill pitched a scoreless inning as well. And then Luke Weaver, inning and 2/3. 3 hits from Paul Goldschmidt. So that's what I'm saying. Like maybe he's waking up. You saw McMahon single. Caballero played a huge role in this win as well in the 9th inning. Couple walks from Ben Rice. Judge had a hit, 2 walks. 2 RBIs by Bellinger. Stanton had the walk, and the Yankees got the win, 8-4. I did forget to mention in the first game, you also had the Cardinals. I mean, they played sloppy in this series. Both teams played sloppy in the series. Both teams had 2 errors yesterday. You also had in the first game, Cardinals were trying to pick off Caballero, and there was nobody at second base, and Caballero ended up advancing to third base. Just a lot of sloppy baseball. So see, that hasn't been cleaned up yet by the Yankees. But they got the win. They got the sweep. Also, news on Stanton. He really got beat up from playing those 3 games out in right field in the Bronx, so that's why he really hasn't been in the lineup. And also, the dimensions of Busch Stadium are a lot different than Yankee Stadium. It's a bigger, lot more ground to cover out there. So that, combined with Stanton being very sore with his lower body, they don't want to push it. They want to be very careful. So he really didn't play in this series. And Judge, it's still not ready. They were saying that it's possible he might be ready to go, as a plane is flying over my house here. They're saying that Judge could be ready to play in the outfield this past weekend against the Cardinals. That didn't happen. So, what's the deal now? Is he going to play against the Rays? Is he going to play the outfield against the Rays? Because Yankees need Stanton in the lineup. And especially when you have this Red Sox series coming up, you got to have your A-plus lineup. And it seems like we might not see that. Now, Stanton could play the outfield again, but they got to be careful. They got to be really careful, because if he tweaks something, he's going to be out for several weeks. And the Yankees can't afford that. They really cannot afford that. But look, it was good the Yankees were able to get the sweep. Now in their last 6 games, they're 5-1. They've done what they were supposed to do with these 6 games, 5-1. Would have liked to have seen 6-0, but let's not get too greedy. They did what they were supposed to do. They gained ground, and now you go into these next 2 series against divisional opponents with a chance to make up even more ground. Now, the Red Sox are playing the Orioles, I believe. Now, the Orioles have been playing better baseball. I know the record doesn't show it, but they got off to a horrible start. So, they're definitely playing like a better baseball team than what their record indicates. And the Blue Jays are taking on the Pirates. Now, tonight, Paul Skeens is pitching, so maybe the Pirates win that game. We'll see, but they don't really win. Well, actually, the record looks a little bit better for Skeens, the win-loss record. I mean, he's had a great year. But, even with Skeens on the mound, it's not a guarantee the Pirates are going to win. So, you might not gain ground in the East, but, Seattle, you can gain ground on them. I mean, the Red Sox could slip up. They blew the game yesterday against the Marlins. Marlins, I think, put up 3 runs to win that game, and they avoided the sweep. So that was part of the reason why the Yankees gaining ground on them. But, the Yankees got an off day tonight. You take on the Rays for a couple games, and, you still got to respect the Rays, but, I think the Yankees can handle their business there. You got Rodon and Schlittler on the mound for those 2 games. And Rodon, Rodon, the last time he pitched at George M. Steinbrenner Field against the Rays, the Yankees won. They had one of their 1-0 victories with him on the mound, I believe. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But these are important games coming up. So I'm hoping Judge is able to play the outfield soon, especially with this Red Sox series coming up, because you got to have Stanton in the lineup. Stanton, his numbers against the Red Sox. I mean, I just think back to the grand slam that he hit against them in 2021. No, he went off on them in that one series at Fenway. You got to have Stanton in the lineup. Can't not have him in the lineup. Everybody's got to be ready to go. Yankees are going to activate Ahmed Rosario off the injured list. They're going to send down J.C. Escara. So it's good to have Rosario back. That gives you more options off the bench, more righty options off the bench. So that's good. But yeah, there are things coming up. And then after this Rays Red Sox, these 2 series, then they take on the Nationals and the White Sox, who are 2 of the worst teams in baseball. But you would like to see the Yankees go up against the Rays, take that series, even though it's only 2 games. Really, the Red Sox series is the test. Red Sox are 5-1 against them this year. You got this series coming up, and then you have the series later on at Fenway one more time. just take the series. Take the series. We'll talk about it more later in the week. But the Yankees have not done well against the division. I think right now they're 14-19, the way things are currently. So, got to improve there. And you're running out of time to do that. So currently they're 5.5 games back of the Blue Jays for first in the American League East, and then, like I said, they're a half game back of both the Red Sox and the Mariners for the top 2 wild card spots. And they've distanced themselves a little bit, created a little bit of a cushion between them and the Guardians. They're 3.5 games up on the Guardians. I know, and the other thing too is, and I forgot to mention this, but Guardians sold at the deadline, but they also lost, starting pitcher Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase due to investigations going on with those 2 players. So Yankees should be able to make it as the 3rd wild card, at least. And I can't believe I'm saying that because they were once 7 games up in the American League East. And now I'm saying, they should make it as the 3rd wild card. But there's still time to change that. Also, big series starting tonight, Astros and the Tigers. Not tonight, but tomorrow night's pitching matchup, very good. Hunter Brown against Tariq Skubal. Looking forward to that. So, like I said, Yankees have the off day tonight. I also wanted to get into, speaking of divisions, I wanted to talk about what Rob Manfred had to say. So, he was on the ESPN broadcast last night, Mets-Tigers. It was Mets-Tigers. Mets-Mariners. It was a the Williamsport game. And he was talking about the further expansion, and division realignments. Because he talked about the travel and the wear and tear that it has on the players, and, realigning the divisions will help, minimize that. So now you also had Jim Bowden of The Athletic. He showed what the divisions could potentially look like. Now, there's certain cities that maybe, baseball wants to put teams in. Now, he has the Midwest division would be the Cubs, the White Sox, the Brewers, and the Twins. A Southwest division would contain the Astros, Royals, Cardinals, and Rangers. Pacific Coast would be Rockies, Athletics, Mariners, Giants. West division, Diamondbacks, Angels, Dodgers, Padres. North would be Reds, Guardians, Tigers, Blue Jays. Mid-Atlantic, Orioles. Let's say team is playing in Charlotte. The Pirates, the Nationals. Southeast would be Braves, Marlins. Potentially Nashville would be a city with the team. And then the Rays. And then the East division would be the Red Sox, the Phillies, and both New York teams, the Yankees and the Mets. Now, if you were to ask me, how do you feel about a potential division realignment? I would say no to it. I like everything the way it is, partly because I don't like change. But there is also a part of me that is curious of the idea of having the Yankees and the Mets in the same division. It definitely does entice me to an extent, but I'm okay with it not happening. If it does happen, well, it's going to get a lot crazier in New York. I'll tell you that. And it's definitely going to jeopardize some friendships and relationships that you have with your family as well. Because, look, they play each other twice a year. You would see that a lot more games, and the division would be on the line potentially between these two teams. So, well, right now, both of these teams are not playing for a division yet. Both teams are the 3rd wild card teams in their respective leagues. So, that's not happening this year. But in future years, could be the case. So that doesn't entice me, but I'm okay with it not being a thing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Mets actually picked up a big series win against the Mariners. They took that series. You got to see one of their young pitchers make their debut, and he pitched very well. Yeah. All right, so maybe the Mets turning it around possibly. So, but that's pretty much it, though. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to also follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. Greatly appreciate that. And also wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us as well. Look up Infinite Sports Official. So as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.